Well, hello. This is my second video about motorcycles, of course. My earlier one, I talked about the two street bikes that I have. Well, actually I have three, but two that I ride regularly. This 14R, 2013, and over there is a ZX10R 2008. And what I'm doing here is what I did to that one, which is put the full Bazzaz on. But this has turned out to be way more complicated than it was on the 10R. I mean, look at the way you've got the engine encased with this piece that's welded into the frame. It's solid. It's part of the motorcycle. You're not removing this to get access. So, after spending a whole day attempting to do this by using screwdrivers and extra long needle nose pliers and hose clamp pliers and everything I could think of to try to get access to those fuel injector connectors and coil connectors, that I finally, and calling Bazzaz on the phone, I couldn't find anybody that had actually done this on a 14R. I couldn't find the videos where anybody had actually done this on a 14R. They talk about doing it and give you a few steps and a few things that you need to do, but they don't actually demonstrate how it's done. It's ridiculous. The Dynajet one, which does a Power Commander 5 on this, you know, he doesn't show you anything at all, and it's really terrible. So I'm showing what I did, what I had to do. And in order to gain access to the area where the throttle bodies, fuel injectors are, as well as up a little further where the stick coils are and the connectors that I have to get access to connect up that part of the Bazzaz harness. These are the two harnesses. By the way, on these videos I go by the name Eddie Brake. That may mean something to some of you. Anyway, these are the harnesses. I guess you can see this. I'm not sure you can or not. Let me take them off. I hung them up so they'd straighten themselves out, and they're all coiled up. So they're in pretty good, usable shape right now. Anyway, so I'm just about ready to start installing these. Now that I have managed to get access to the ejectors. Now, I haven't talked about what did I actually do in order to get that access, and I don't think you can see it from where the camera is right now. But there's a removable plate right here that covers the battery and some other wiring harnesses and so forth, but primarily the battery. And then between that pocket there and the engine is a solid wall, a solid plate. It's not accessible through there, not at all. And it's not, you know, I was thinking I was going to have to drop the motor to gain access to the top of the engine, or maybe pull this frame piece here or something. I wasn't sure. But anyway, here's what I decided to do. I decided to cut a hole, an access hole, in this wall that separates the battery from the throttle bodies. And it's not a stressed area or anything, but I do think it's there to protect the battery from the heat of the engine, because along with the wall there's an insulator covering it. So what I'm going to do before I wrap this up is I'm going to drill some bolt holes, get a nice piece of aluminum the same thickness as that, which is about 1/8 of an inch thick, and bolt it in place along with some insulation covering it to protect the battery. That battery is not going back in. That's the stock battery. I weighed it. It weighs 10.8 pounds. Unbelievable. So probably a Shirai or some facsimile is what's going to go in here, and that will probably weigh about 3 pounds. So there's a 7-pound loss there. By the way, on this bike, if you didn't see the earlier video, it has a full tie 4-2-1 on it. And I have, what else have I done to it? Oh, I put a fender eliminator. I guess that's about it. But anyway, oh yeah, I sent the ECU off to Schmidt Schnitz Racing in Indiana, just to have the safety features that Kawasaki puts into the ECU removed. You know, the RPM limit, I think it's the 11,000 or 11.5. Anyway, it's been raised 500 RPM. The top speed governor, the 186 mile an hour limit, that has been removed. Also, on this bike, they programmed that ECU to delay the secondaries from opening if the motorcycle attempts to accelerate too hard. You know, if this doesn't make any sense to you, it doesn't make any sense to me either. I guess it's a safety feature. For people that aren't experienced riders, they figured it would not be good to have it accelerate harder than a certain amount, so it holds back on opening the secondaries. Well, that's been removed, so now the secondaries open much sooner. And by the way, on the dyno, bone stock, this thing was a 198.4 something, bone stocker, a little above average. And then with the ECU, I got it back, put it back on the dyno, no pipe yet or anything. And the biggest change was in the mid-range. It got about 6 more horsepower in the mid-range. It's significant. It's a monster in the mid-range now. I mean, it was a monster before, but it's an even worse monster now. And only about 2 horsepower on top. So it's making about 202 before I put the pipe on. Now with the pipe, I've ridden it, and I can tell you already that it's going to make significantly more horsepower with that pipe on it. I mean, it's beyond my capabilities right now. It's just, as far as hard acceleration goes. I got to put a quick shifter on it. I cannot shift the gears, full bore go through the gears without a quick shifter on this thing. I got to hold on for dear life, so I got to have a quick shifter. That's another issue with this bike, is the quick shifter, because it shifts the gears directly off the spline coming out of the transmission, and there's no linkage. So you can't hook it up like you would most other sport bikes or most other motorcycles that have common rear set, or typical rear sets with a linkage rod. And so what I have to do is either buy a set of aftermarket rear sets for this thing, or do what Dynajet does, what they call their linear sensor, where they actually hook it up to the shift lever and then anchor it to the frame. And so they have a rod that pushes up when you lift up the shifter going through the gears, assuming you're not GP. The other way you have to have a pull sensor. This way you have a push sensor. But anyway, so I'm going to probably rig it up that way. Either that, or I'll go order some China rear sets, which are only about $100, and not as well built, but the reviews don't, bad mouth them too bad. And it's a whole lot cheaper than $350 to $400 to beyond what you'd pay for, Sato or. Can't think of the other names right now. I'll think of it later. Anyway, so I'm going to get the camera and move it up here to show you the hole that I made to gain access to the fuel injectors and the stick coils. So let me put this back here, and I'll just lay it down. And I'll grab the camera, see if I can find my way around here. Too much light on this thing, I can hardly see. So I'll try not to shake too much. Let's see, what do I got to do here? I got to, where's that bar? Hang on a second here, there's I get back here, I can't see. Oh, here it is. Okay, so off with the camera. There we go. And now I'm going to walk up and show you the hole that I cut. And there, I hope you can see it. It's about 4 inches wide and about 2 inches tall. And right there, dangling out of the hole is one of the fuel injector connectors. Right there. I've already pulled them off, and you can see. Now, let me show you. You see this thing right here. This whole shroud, I guess is the thing to call it. It just completely covers up the engine, encases it. And if you look here, there's just no space to get in there. You can get in here. I can get my hand in here a little ways, but I tried, believe me, for hours on end to try and get access to those things. I was able to pull this first one off here, and that's about as far as I got. And there would be no hope getting to the stick coils. I don't know how they do it in a shop. When you take your bike in and say, put in a new set of spark plugs for me, would you? It's probably going to cost you about $400. It seems to me the easiest way to deal with, even like a valve adjustment or even a valve check would be to lower the motor, unbolt it and lower it down. So, geez, that's, I don't know. Anything to do with the top end of the motor, valve adjustment, spark plugs, the throttle bodies and fuel injection. Brock's Performance, they have a video where they took a 2012 14R and modified it. I think they got up to like 220 horsepower or something like that. And he talks about, he discovered that problem with the secondaries being delayed as a safety feature. And so they initially, before reflashing the ECU, just completely removed the secondaries. Secondary throttle butterflies. And saw the change that made. And so, anyway, he didn't even talk about how he did that. And I'm assuming this is 2013, I'm assuming in 2012 is the same as in 2013. But this whole shroud here, it's just unbelievable. It is actually the airbox. There is no, classic removable airbox here. There's a slot here. You pull this plate off, and the air filter slides out of that slot, and you slide another one in, or clean yours and slide it back in. And but this whole thing here is the airbox in effect, but it's welded right into the frame, as you can see. It's not. The only thing that's removable is this plate back here, which allows you to, I don't know what allows you, it allows you access to some ABS plumbing. There's a whole bunch of ABS plumbing on this. I didn't realize that, having to sync both the front and rear brakes and sync them in a certain way, hopefully always emphasizing the front brake more than the rear brake. I'm sure they're not totally stupid about that. So anyway, I just wanted to show you what I had done. So this, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think I should be criticized for what I did. I think it made it a whole lot easier to gain access to what I need to get access to, and I think it's pretty harmless. It isn't going to show, and I'm going to put a plate back in its place, and so the battery will be just as well protected as it was, although it will not be that battery. That battery is not going back in it. Okay, well, I may have to edit this some. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but at any rate, I'll maybe do a continuation later after I get it this job completed, get it on the dyno, and start using the Bazzaz to get some real horsepower. First, I'm going to run it with the ECU as it is, with the fuel injection program just as it is, and the pipe, because it hasn't been ran with the pipe yet, and see what that does. And then I'll do the Bazzaz map that comes with the Bazzaz, which I found on my 10R it was a lousy map. And I'm still working on the 10R. It's still got a long way to go, but it started out bone stock at 162 horsepower, and right now the way it sits, it's making 174, and that's an honest number. I see numbers on YouTube of guys ZX10Rs before the 2016 model making one. They claim like, oh yeah, we've had it up to 185 or 190 something or whatever. Well, I don't know what they've done. They had to have cams or headwork or something, but they just don't make that much horsepower just with bolt-on stuff. So anyway, that's it for now. So again, this is Eddie Brake, and that's what my name is on YouTube, and this will be my second video on there, and it's all about these Kawasaki's. I've been riding them since 1969, and that's it. So see you later.